All right. Well, guys, if you haven't figured it out yet, we are here tonight on Between a Pod and a Hard Place, and we are without Steven. Steven is recovering from his sickness, but um, I'm not here flying solo. I'm joined here tonight by Corey. He's sort of like our super friend extraordinaire. Um,
Okay.
and I think Steven and I have even talked about calling him like an associate producer of the podcast. He
I get
definitely,
coffee.
you get coffee, yes.
Yes, yes.
But we also appreciate your participation and your perspective. And so I'm really glad that you were able to come and join me here tonight, just to go ahead and be a part of Between a Pod and a Hard Place. We got a lot of stuff we're talking about. I think we're going to talk about Superman and Lois, the new episodes. We're going to talk a little bit about Daredevil,
Mm.
Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage, and then anything else that kind of might come up, or
Not Iron Fist. We're not talking about Iron Fist.
we don't talk about Iron Fist.
No, no,
No,
no.
it's sort of the red-headed stepchild of
The blonde, curly-headed stepchild.
I know. We already got one person joining us here. So J.A. Ledford, you are another one of our dedicated fans who always come in and joins us and participates in the conversation. Thank you for being here and supporting us. And as if from beyond the grave itself,
Whoa!
Steven, I know, Steven is even joining us virtually here. We know that he's okay. He's just recovering, and so he'll be chiming in as well. And so
He doesn't look quite as beautiful as normal, so
no, not quite.
not camera ready.
So hey guys, I'm glad you're willing to put up with Corey and I here tonight. Our little back and forth banter. But guess what? We're gonna what do they say? The show must go on.
Show must go on.
It is. Even the little blip at the beginning here tonight. Like generally Steven is so good about playing the theme music. And for whatever reason, again, I'm not the tech guy, and so we just Steven's makeup guy called out sick. I know, and my makeup person didn't come either.
And mine put way too much foundation on
Way
me.
too much. You're like all pasty and white and everything. So,
yeah, well, I'm using Bard equipment, so it's first time, long time.
I know you should get Amber to go and like paint you up a little bit here.
There we go. Yeah. I'd show up with like flamingo stripes.
You would. She could like make your eyes pop and everything. You could do like the goth look and everything. Of course, that would be a completely different podcast.
I'd probably want to go like early 90s, tube pants and, crazy blue hair.
Right.
If Amber can give me a full head of crazy blue hair, then we can go.
I've seen her do crazier things than that before with makeup. So, you know what? We might be able to hook you up. All right. I feel like we have vamped about as much as we can vamp. I'm excited. How have you enjoyed season 2 so far of Superman and Lois?
So, not to be too spoilery, but we always try and look into the future of the show. We want to see, we had that interview with Jordan Elsas.
Right.
With all the little sprinklings in of possibilities going on. And now, in this last episode, at the end, one of the hints was, is he going to get powers? Now, he's not going to get them in the way we wanted him to get them.
No. Well, and you know what's funny? I went back and rewatched it again here today, and I had kind of thought that he was asking his girlfriend for steroids. And I guess I hadn't really paid attention to the idea that she had said, oh, they're not drugs, they're ground up crystals.
Oh, really? I picked up on that pretty quick.
Okay.
I was pretty sure as soon as I saw the guy bench pressing and Jordan was lifting his little like 2.5 pound weight.
Oh, I knew that too. They were
really okay.
They were
it's
really
gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
To me, it felt like even Jonathan. Either Jonathan is pretending that he doesn't have powers, and so he's exaggerating just how puny he is.
It's a very
So
Clark Kent thing to do.
it is. I kind of thought like maybe that's what he's doing, that he really has powers, but he's trying really hard to hide it. That's what I was thinking. But man, the minute he asked his girlfriend for these special X-Kryptonite steroids, I'm like, oh, he's going to get powers.
It still could be that he doesn't know that he has the powers.
Right.
We have in the first episode of season 2, we have Bitsy, who plays Lois. She says, "You broke your arm twice last year."
Yeah.
And we see that arm heal up really quickly, right?
We do.
So I'm like, I don't know.
Well,
how much time is happening here?
I know. Corey, I mean, you and I both have experienced multiple bone breaks in multiple places. It's not one of those things where you're wearing a cast one day and then it's gone the next.
I shattered my arm in 10 places in summertime, and I missed out on all of marching band freshman year because it was in a cast up to my mid shoulder.
Yeah, and for me, I broke my arms 4 times before I was 12. I feel like if you would see me growing up, it was always on my arm, and so I mean it's just one of those things. I would have loved to have had like speed healing.
Yeah,
I understand that. I think that somebody wonders if I had done it. This is not something that I can take credit for. Right, I didn't hurt Corey or anything like that.
No. I was in a solo bike accident.
Right,
I went over the handlebars in soft sand.
Yeah, so I think the whole point here though is that makes you wonder a little bit about if Jonathan has the ability, like the accelerated healing, or if there are certain things that he has that Jordan doesn't.
Yeah.
So,
something. I
know.
It's got to be something.
Right. I really think, though, that the X-Kryptonite could end up activating like cells that are dormant inside.
There you go. It's like a Heroes tie-in.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, there's a solar eclipse, and then that awakens Jordan Elsas or Jonathan Kent's powers.
Right. But I do wonder if it's going to activate them in the way that he wants them to. So
yeah, it could be kind of uncontrollable.
Right.
Every now and then in the superhero type shows, it's like a learning curve. Of course we see that in the Smallville because they spend like 6 years with Clark in high school.
Right. Well, we what do we know right now? We know that Jordan has strength. We know that he has
heat vision,
the cold breath,
no flight.
We don't. He doesn't have speed, and he doesn't have flight, and he doesn't seem to be particularly durable. I've seen him get bruised up and abrased pretty easily. It would be interesting to see if Jonathan ends up being the one who gets the flight and the speed and the durability. That would be interesting to me. All I will say is when we interviewed Jordan Elsas for the show and we asked him that superhero question, he made that face like, I want to tell you, but I can't tell you. That he made that face.
Yeah, he probably knew something about the drug aspect of season 2 already.
I think so too. That said, part of me had wanted to be like what he had said. He had said he really didn't think that his character needed to have powers, and I kind of thought that was possible. I thought maybe he would go the tech route, or he would end up becoming like a weapons expert. But what
I still think that is a possibility, especially since we have the steel suit being so damaged that there's really, and they're talking about possibly transforming the barn into more of like a bunker.
Right.
So we're gonna see the tech side of things be grown on this Earth. I don't know how much of their technology Natalie was able to bring in that ship.
I would guess very little. That said, she's already demonstrated just a real aptitude that whatever she didn't bring with her, she can probably recreate.
Yeah. Apparently, she knows how to repair, Mopar cars too.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, I think that she's clearly very intelligent, highly skilled. I had thought it was just something that she had picked up, but she really is a chip off the old block, like her
mhm.
dad. Um, you know, so that's something I'm really interested about is to see if Jonathan indeed does get powers. I feel like that seems very obvious at this point. Um,
There's at least going to be a 1-to-1 face-off of Jonathan and the other quarterback guy. They're going to have a confrontation. It's going to be, some punches thrown, more than
there are,
likely.
yeah, but I think that considering that Jonathan is half Kryptonian, I think that might give him a little bit of an edge. But we'll see what happens. We really see what happens. I also think like that might end up putting him on the radar for the government. A lot of these government supers, the tag has been absorbed by them.
And so with Tag, we don't even know necessarily how his powers came to be. Did he have them before the incident with, it'd be Jordan on the show and Alex in real life, at the mine site where they had that party where apparently all the 15-year-olds go.
Right.
And, there was, heat vision with some type of, I don't know if it was the XK or if it was some other mineral.
Well, I think it's sort of like the idea that they went out to the mines to go and have the party. We know that at the mines there's all of this XK lying around, this X kryptonite, and the assumption that's made is that when Jordan used his heat vision for the first time, that the energy from his heat vision activated the XK, and that
so we're really getting into like a Chloe Sullivan Wall of Weird thing,
right.
It's gonna be every other person at the high school. There's gonna be a fish boy, and there's gonna be a boy that talks to aliens. I don't know,
right?
But like it opens it up, and I don't think that Tag is part of the comic books as far as I'm aware of.
I doubt it. I mean, I think there are a lot of characters who have been made for the show, so that's at least that's my familiarity with it.
And I like that because that means that if they write them a certain way, they have total control over it. No one can say like, oh, they wouldn't have done that because there's 40 years of them doing this.
Right. You think about the freedom that gives you as a writer when you create a character from scratch. You're not fighting over rights or anything like that, and you don't have angry fans who are pissed off that you've changed who they are.
Well, and so, I think that just as simple as whether they're going to be a good guy or a bad guy,
right?
Because like with Stargirl, we have these people that are from Golden Age, Silver Age comics. We have the villains from there as well, and there are some pretty big names on the bad list.
Yeah,
and so we have a long history of them. Like they've always been a bad guy. So when they go on the show and season 2 came out, and all of a sudden a couple of them wanted to be good guys and help the heroes, we were all like, no. But with Tag, we don't really know. He's just an innocent high school kid. He's only been in the mix for, over the summer, being controlled by the government, new to his powers, and we don't know the other people on that team that the government is controlling. We don't know. Are they all from Smallville? I don't know.
Well, they had talked about how Smallville being located where the XK was, people's bodies had already kind of gotten used to the XK, used to the radiation. That's what made them kind of susceptible to
It's kind of like an
be
Aaron
eradicated.
Brockovich, it's in the water type of thing.
Right. I mean, I guess they could incorporate the PG&E or something into this in some way.
I'm sure that they would want to be part of the show.
Right.
Official sponsor.
Right. Same kind of corporate, big corporate structure taking out the little guy. I believe that's pretty accurate that we see here in this show. The big thing for me in this, aside from the idea that that we're literally seeing Jonathan, the potential of him getting powers, is this big trick that the writers played on us. Now, they did it in season 1, right? In season 1, the big trick was that they introduce a person that they call Captain Luthor.
Yes.
And we think, oh, it's Lex Luthor. And they made
some version.
Guy. Right. We think it's some alternate reality version of Lex Luthor with this battle suit.
Why couldn't Lex Luthor be black?
When you deal with alternate
He's
reality,
bald. He's bald. That's good enough, right?
Anything could happen.
Lex Luthor has to be bald,
right?
No matter, but he can be whatever race.
But they totally played with us about our expectations. Called him Captain Luthor, and then episode 4 or 5. Notice the timing, kind of the same place.
That's called exposition, and then we get into the development, and we're waiting for the recap.
Right. But I remember that reveal moment when they tell us this is John Henry Irons, and he has his hammer, and I literally my jaw dropped.
You're like, oh.
Yeah.
I thought one of the sad things is, we did learn that there was a John Henry Irons on Earth Prime.
Yeah.
Who, passed away.
Right.
Because that's one thing that, I always wonder when you bring in the idea of there being a multiverse, and the Flash goes to another world. I'm like, okay, we never run into the Barry Allen of that world. Did that Barry Allen die?
I don't know.
How long does the Flash have to be on that Earth for the weird, brain hemorrhaging thing to start to happen? And I'm probably, going a little too deep into the thought process. It's just a show, Corey.
Right.
Well,
I mean, we take this stuff really seriously. We try to figure out the reasoning behind it.
Every time somebody has a headache on the show, I automatically think doppelganger from another universe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And on Batwoman, she referenced her problem with having multiples of herself. I mean, well, it wasn't Kate. It was Skarsgård. That's the other lady.
Yeah, Rachel Skarsgård. Yeah.
She plays Alice.
Yeah.
She referenced, I know how it's like when there's someone else of me on one place.
Yeah.
And it was just, and then you have the headaches on the Naomi show as well. And I'm like, there's, the odds of all that being just coincidental is too much for me.
I agree. So it certainly makes sense to me that Clark gets these flashback headaches and there's some kind of doppelgangery stuff going on. That said, the buildup for the last couple of episodes was Doomsday, right?
And they even had Lois say the word Doomsday.
They did.
In the episode before Doomsday was on screen. And spoilers, it was someone else.
Right. So I get it. Again, clever writers, they get us thinking one thing and then they surprise us with something else. That said, when they were looking at season 2, some people were like, what would you like to see? Well, I'd like to see some stuff that we really haven't seen before, right? In this case, have we seen a whole lot of Bizarro?
There was Bizarro on OG Smallville.
Okay.
And and it wasn't very long, but it was like, they had it different. Like the sunlight made his face show for real, but like he had like a whole relationship with Lana as Bizarro, but she thought it was Clark. It was a little unbelievable that she wouldn't be able to tell.
Right. But it was more teenage drama Superman.
That's true, yeah. 15 years, a lot changes.
Right. it seems to me very obvious that this version of Bizarro coming out of the mine, he's number one, I think physically equal in many ways to Superman. We find that a lot of the red sun flares of John Henry Irons, um, and so those didn't work on him. So I think we're going to find that there are some things that that Bizarro is susceptible to, and some things that he's not. Stephen had mentioned here that Bizarro was a wraith from the Phantom Zone in Smallville.
Yeah, so that was during the part of the storyline, when there was a lot of questionable stuff, like Lex was going to become Zod, and they were definitely trying to fold in stuff. I think that Bizarro is in the comic books is a clone of Superman, right?
Right.
So we'll just have to wait and see. Obviously, Bizarro has been locked inside the Earth for quite some time. Now, is he from another universe? Is that why he shares a mental thing, or was he created and then planted in there?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that right now we really don't have a lot of details, but it does seem to me like the people that are involved with the mine and that the government with their team of superheroes, they seem to know a lot more than they're letting on, right?
So the new guy who's in charge of the DOD, is he in control of the lady at the mine that knocked out Irons?
We don't really know if they're in cahoots with each other at all. I'm trying to figure that one out.
Because he had sent two of his super junior team people into the mines.
Right.
I don't know if they were already there. They did save people, so that is good for them.
It seemed like they were causing the earthquake itself. Like they were like punching the ground. Didn't we see them do that?
They know something about releasing the Bizarro character.
Right.
I don't know if they know that it's Bizarro, or if they know that it's the same as Superman, or maybe it's linked to how the powers are working, or maybe Bizarro was placed there at the same time that the XK was forming. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that the big thing we've realized here in season 2 is that Superman has gone from being a friend of the American government to there really being a lot of conflict, right? And Superman really tells this new general, he's like, I've got a responsibility to the world, not just to you. And I think that really has ruffled their feathers. Part of their reason for expanding their superhero program is because they don't have Superman in their back pocket. So if they can't depend on Superman, then they're going to have to get another Superman that they can control. And I think in their minds, they think they can find a way to control Bizarro. Definitely, they think they control this team of young supers.
Yeah, definitely.
But as we've learned, sometimes you don't like what you get.
Yeah, and do they understand what they're dealing with?
I'm sure they don't.
I mean, you have the DOD that was established during the Supergirl television show, and they seem to have. I assume that because of Brainy and John Jones being on there, they have a pretty expansive knowledge of aliens and powers and metahumans and stuff.
Of course.
So then this new guy takes over for General Lane, and I don't know too much about his backstory. I don't know, has he been working on secret stuff on the side? You have in the show Naomi, you have the government is hunting aliens.
Right.
We still don't know which if she is on the same Earth as everybody else's, or if she's on a separate Earth with a separate DOD doing separate things. But government involvement with meta stuff is definitely escalating. And I think we're going to get into something like you see a lot in the Justice League animated show, where there are Justice League members who are, agents of the U.S. government.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that they've realized that if they go up against somebody who's super powered, their military is woefully unprepared. Right? If there was an evil Superman, as we had seen in season 1, they would not be able to stop him. And so their development of weapons that use kryptonite and other things, they need to have a nuclear option if they're going to be able to fight back.
And one of the things that I was thinking of, didn't Irons kind of join them and help them out a little bit with that already? Because he was fighting, I don't know how many Kryptonians on his planet and survived because he had extensive tech to fight Kryptonians.
Right.
And when Superman and, all the stuff at the end of season 1 was happening, I know that Irons had shared some of his tech. How much of it did he share with them?
Right. I'm sure that he would have been more than happy to share what he knew with General Lane because of their history on their world.
Yeah.
My concern is, that Superman had made his agreement with General Lane in regards to the kryptonite. But it seems to me like any agreements that he might have made in season 1 are completely out the window here in season 2. So I'm not really sure what that amounts to. I just feel like, the U.S. government right now it's seeming a lot like they're going to be an antagonist here.
It seemed like a really odd time for General Lane to retire as well. It's just been, a couple months since this whole thing with, Zod or, Tauro. I keep on wanting to say Zod, but, it just happened. He's still in custody, especially now we find out he's been hiding his powers. It's obviously not the last time we're going to see General Lane. He pulled some strings to get some clearances for John Henry, in the previous episode.
Yeah.
But I think that he's gonna be part of. They've got to get Superman and the U.S. government working back together. Especially, we're gonna find out more about these young students, or however you want to call them, that are in control by the government right now.
Yeah, I'm certain about that. I think that in one sense, I understand why Sam wanted to retire, because he was really finding himself constantly in conflict between his professional life and his duty to the government and his responsibility to his family. He had sacrificed all that time with Lois and Lois's sister growing up. They had felt kind of abandoned, between being abandoned by their mother and being kind of separated from their father because of his job. And now, even though he, I think, really served as a bridge between the government and Superman, there were a lot of times where he felt like he was placing demands on his family that Superman just could no longer bear. And so I think in some ways it was really smart, because he really did have a conflict of interest in that whole situation.
But we see now that conflict of interest really worked to Superman's benefit.
It did. In many ways, having somebody at the top, it allowed them to hide in plain sight. Having somebody else in that spot with all of those resources at his disposal, it really does put them in a much more vulnerable position.
And and General Lane bought Superman a lot of time as well.
Right.
You know, if Superman, you know, saved another North Korean sub, you know, and General Lane is the only one who knows about it, well, he doesn't have to badmouth his son-in-law.
Right.
But the other guy, you know, I don't know his name, but you know, he's in charge. He doesn't have any personal relationship with Superman. He's already booted Superman out of the works.
Yeah.
For a lot of it.
And I think that for him, he's got a lot of pressure. You know, one of the problems of having a position of authority is you still got somebody over you breathing down your neck and telling you they want him to deal with Superman like Lane did, but he can't. He doesn't have that same.
I'm waiting for them to have a Waller type of character,
right,
or a Red Queen type of character. You know, there's going to be somebody who is going to be probably somewhat of a comic booky reference that straddles the government meta, you know, reigns.
Right. And I feel like, you know, considering the position that this new general, I think it's Anderson, is in, he might end up bowing to that pressure and end up being willing to do things that some might consider to be less than moral. So
I was kind of thinking, I was hoping it was going to go the other way. We're going to have the growing pains segment of the relationship, you know, where he has his agenda and Superman has his agenda. And by the end of the season, or maybe it'll take more than one season, he'll realize Superman really is for the benefit of the country.
Right.
And they're going to have an uneasy handshake alliance or something like that. I don't know if you guys have talked too much about this before, the teaser on the new John Diggle show.
We have not.
So John Diggle, who was just on the second to last episode of Batwoman as well.
I saw that.
And, you know, so he knows Batwoman's mom. I was like, is he Batwoman's father?
I was waiting for that. I thought it was funny that he popped in on that show, and he had that little box that for whatever reason
it's an engagement ring.
Yeah, clearly
he locked it shut. He can't get his engagement ring out. That's what it is. But I've heard that he is going to have a new show, and it's going to deal with like college-aged metahumans. I don't know if it's going to be Metropolis or Gotham. It probably won't be National City. But I'm thinking that the Tag and the other metas are college-aged kids. Are they going to end up helping Diggle with whatever? Because you know, Diggle is tied to Argus and the DoD.
So you're thinking that Diggle might end up having his own version of like a Suicide Squad, though he's actually they've done their take on Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking it was going to be Suicide Squad. I was thinking it was going to be closer to a Teen Titans, you know, junior. These are all, they're either no-name superheroes or less known.
Right.
We only know one person potentially on the team by name.
You know, John Diggle has always reminded me a little bit of like a Rick Flag kind of guy, right? Somebody who has extensive military experience, somebody that people would follow into battle. I mean, the idea that that Diggle, you know, was chosen by Oliver even to be the new Green Arrow. The guy certainly is qualified.
Doesn't currently have any powers of any kind, but man, are they heavily implying that he's going to eventually have a Green Lantern ring.
Right.
If he opens it up and they're like, oh, it's a piece of kryptonite. You know, like it's a green glowing kryptonite. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it would be very for me. It would be very kind of in line with what they've been doing with the whole bait and switch. Everybody's expecting it to be a Green Lantern ring, and then we open it up and we find out that it's made of plastic or something.
I don't know. Yeah, something like that. Or you know, he's gonna. It's they had all that. And remember on the, I think it was on Arrow. They'd even teased that his stepfather's last name was. Gosh, now I'm channeling Steven with my can't forget names thing. Who are the Green Lanterns? Names are
like Hal Jordan.
Hal Jordan. I keep on wanting to say John Jones.
Why don't
not
we
John
Google?
Jones.
You know, it's crazy. We've got a computer right in front of us. We can always Google it.
Waiting for chat. Is chat gonna say something? Mark
I know.
said there were no plans for David Ramsey as Green Lantern. But maybe Mark Guggenheim is lying to you, Steven.
I know.
Because you know you're the number one link.
I would really hate it if that was the case. Here's what we've got. The names are Alan Scott, Hal Jordan, Guy Gardner, John Stewart, Kyle Rayner, Simon Bays, and Jessica Cruz. John Stewart is the name that I remember. John Diggle, reminding us about. So, I mean, I feel like that's certainly one of those things they've been heavily implying. But again, as we've known, they love that whole bait and switch. So.
Yeah, and they've been. It's one of those things that like that was teased a couple seasons before the end of Arrow. And everybody's been like, man, Diggle was, it's his, Steven just commented, Diggle's stepdad, last name was Stewart.
Right.
So, I mean, they've been teasing that for so long, and everybody has been saying that Diggle would be a great Green Lantern. And he's a great actor.
Oh, yeah.
And he's already established in the CW Arrowverse.
He is like the one character who seems to just get around. I mean, is there a show he hasn't appeared on yet?
He wasn't himself in Legends of Tomorrow.
Okay.
He played a Texas outlaw that was supposed to be a Texas Ranger. Really weird episode, but he was on it though. I think all of the other ones he's been himself.
Yeah. For me, I felt like even his brief cameo on Superman and Lois was there to let us know that all of these shows are kind of congruently happening at relatively the same time. That it's not like 15 or 16 years in the future, but it is Earth Prime, and it is happening at the same time that all these other shows were happening. That was something that I had really needed to know.
Yeah, because you had the issue with the twins that at the time of Crisis they were just being born.
Right.
One of the reasons why Superman wasn't involved with Crisis was because of having to go and have the kids be born. But then, and the kids would have only been 1 year old, maybe 2 years old at this point in time. But now all of a sudden we have teenagers. So now, of course, Alex, he didn't get his powers until just recently, so it's not like he would have been fighting crime this whole entire time. But how the timelines line up, is always of interest with these type of shows. I know that I'm always a heavy stickler for, why don't they, team up more, because they have all these Earth level problems. Wouldn't that mean that Supergirl should help Superman? If we don't know, maybe there will be.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we certainly found in a lot of the shows that specifically in their first season, they really did not cross over with other shows a whole lot. They were really trying to establish that show as being able to stand on its own. And I think that's been a lot of it. I remember specifically what they did with Supergirl. That if you saw Superman, it was like his back as he was flying away, like you saw his cape flutter. Or what I thought was hilarious was the idea that that Superman and Supergirl were texting back and forth, which I thought was hilarious.
And they did the same thing on Naomi. The shot of Superman is from like like 1,000 feet away, and it's the back of Superman. So you can't even tell if it's Tyler or not.
I know. So I guess the question, I feel like we're kind of segueing a little bit here. Have you been keeping up with Naomi?
I did, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
I will say that I do like the show more than I did.
Okay.
And I think that I might be slightly out of the target audience.
It does seem to be a little bit younger in its audience. I feel like there's a lot. They're really trying to slowly build. They don't want to come out and give us all the information right away.
But in the moment when it's happening, I'm like they go back and forth. It's like, you're not asking the right question,
right?
And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, it's just the two of us. Just tell me,
right?
You know,
right?
But they do call attention to their own. This episode, other episode ended with Naomi jumping off the bridge, and then he starts, with teaching Naomi martial arts, and he has her with tennis balls. And he's like, we start small. We don't learn to run before we walk. He's like, you just had me jump off a bridge.
Right. I thought she had a really good point. I'm like, why start small and then have me jump off a bridge last episode?
And that's that's pretty drastic. If it didn't work.
Right. He's like, you'd break some bones.
Yeah, so, I'm like, oh, that'll go well the rest of the season.
I know. Right now, I feel like Naomi is some combination of Nancy Drew and Scooby-Doo. That's really what it feels like. Somehow, Naomi can't do anything without a tag team of like 5 or 6 other people.
Everybody in her group is also, like, the show is being very deliberate about, like, everybody in this group could potentially be a boyfriend or girlfriend.
Right. And they could all be a boyfriend or girlfriend at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like, okay, like, you don't walk into a room and, like, Google eyes with this person like that for like a minute or two, unless you're going to ask some questions.
I know. It's a very interesting kind of thing. So I'm still hanging on. I'm giving the show some time. I think it has a lot of potential. At the same time, I feel like there's some things that I need from it. It needs to be. They seem to kind of like wait till the very end of the episode for Naomi to do anything special, or for them to do any major reveal, and they need to kind of pick up some speed a little bit.
Well, and Naomi's friends know next to nothing about what's going on, and they're willing to break laws and sneak people around, and there's a lot of jumping in and out of windows, and she's like 15 or 16 in the show, and like her she does all these things. She blows up a science lab at a university, and the parents are all like, we are very upset with you, so you should go to your room. She's like, you've never grounded me in my whole entire life. I'm like, okay, I found the problem.
Right.
I know. Right. I know what the problem is the parents haven't been parenting.
What's funny though, in my life, I've always thought that Jill and I were pretty lenient, permissive parents. Right? I mean, I never thought that we parented with an iron fist, but man, I feel like Hitler next to those parents. It's almost like,
but like, tell me this.
Yeah.
With your daughters, how many of your daughters are on a first name basis with the local tattoo artist and the local used car salesman?
Yeah, it's a no.
So I mean,
it's a no.
I'm like, oh, and they're doing the stary thing back and forth too.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh wait, what? Okay, what's going on there? You know,
I think I'm just surprised that the parents are not shocked at all. Like they don't even blink an eyelash when she says some things, and I'm like, okay, I get it.
but you find out at the end of the last episode that they knew something all along. And my only response to that was, if they knew this for the last 15 years, they really haven't been preparing much. You know, with the father being in government work and they live in a military town, you know, I'm hoping that there's going to be a little bit more of an explanation to why that is. Did you think that that was protecting them? Does anybody else know? Does the father know the tattooed Thanagarian guy?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, again, they clearly know more. This they are like the Kents. That's what they're really setting things up. That for Naomi, her parents are like the Kents were to Superman. So
Yeah.
they're really making that parallel between the two of them of being, adopted aliens on a different planet. They're making that really clear about how that's set up.
Well,
Um,
and one of the things that I'm also interested, because I've done some reading on the comic book
yeah,
and how the comic book parallels with the show right now. And, you know, are they aliens? Or are they just from another Earth? You know, we're dealing with multiversal aspects with
I'm
this
glad.
show as
I'm
well.
I know. I'm really glad that you brought that up because D lets us know that he's a Thanagarian, right? So he's got wings. He's a Thanagarian, which means that he's from another planet. And so, much like how Superman had crash landed on Earth, right from Krypton, Naomi clearly had a very similar experience. But in her case, it doesn't seem like she came alone. That there were other aliens that also arrived. Either they were already here, or they arrived when at the same
I
time.
I believe that Naomi and the car dealership guy and possibly the art lady, they're all earthlings from another universe's Earth.
Okay,
And it's going to depend on how much of the comic book they follow.
right.
They could just easily write them off to be they're from another planet and we're not dealing with another Earth. But as far as I understand it, in the comic books, they're from another Earth, and that portal is closer to like a boom tube technology.
Okay.
So, and I don't know. I don't want to spoil too much.
No, well, number one, on Between a Pod and a Hard Place, we've never really cared a whole lot about spoilers, and this is really the place for us to go and talk about what our theories are. So I'm curious about if that's going to be it. It would explain why they've guarded that technology so heavily, because you wouldn't
Yeah.
want anybody to have the ability to boom tube anywhere in the universe, right?
Well, it takes a lot of power, and that thing that looks like a 5 pound barbell weight is some type of technology that unlocks abilities.
Right.
So obviously Naomi doesn't know how to use it, and for some reason the Thanagarian guy does. We don't know exactly. Was he on Earth fighting with Superman on the Earth that they're all from? I don't know how he ties in with Superman, and which Superman. Is it the Superman that we know, or is it a completely different Superman?
Right. My guess is that it would be an alternate version of Superman, like a Justice League kind of situation.
Um,
That would make sense to me.
well, because you did have the Thanagarians in the Stargirl mythos as well, but it was from a different name.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's funny because in some like when we talk about Hawkman and Hawkgirl, sometimes they show it as they're ancient Egyptians um, who have, who became hawks, which totally kind of blows that whole "we came from another planet" mythology out of the water. So
Yeah, and that's because over the course of 50 years of writing comic books, they've had different writers, retcon origin stories.
right,
Which is, once again, it's a problem with having established characters, but this might be a new character, but is of the same species.
right,
As I understand it, the Thanagarians are aliens that are long lived, and their wings are a technology.
okay,
So they're not like biologically part bird, but they're an alien with a technology. Apparently, wings are really useful.
well, I mean, who doesn't want to know how to fly?
Yeah, but if you have the technology to make something to let you fly, would you have like the steel suit? You can fly in the steel suit, but I guess like you don't have to worry about running out of energy if it's like biosurgery to yourself or something. I don't know. There's going to be I feel like there's going to be a lot more fleshing out of that.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing too. So I'm holding off judgment on Naomi. I'm giving it the chance to kind of tell its story, but I do feel like I'm a little bit on the fence, just because there some writing issues a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
One of the things that they have the thing where everybody does like the googly eyed look to each other, and the other thing is like everybody like delivers their line with like a little bit of a smirk.
right?
Like in the last in the episode 9 of Star Wars, where like they're in the ship, and it was like, is it the character flying the ship, or is it the actor flying the ship having a good time pretending to be the character?
Right. I feel like they're in a place where there's so many extra characters that they really don't need, that I kind of go, who are you again? Right.
Yeah.
And they really do all seem to have a very similar kind of personality. There's not a whole lot that differentiates them from one another, other than their complete and utter devotion to Naomi. It makes me
Yeah.
wonder if one of her abilities is that she can mesmerize people.
She has pheromone abilities.
I mean, clearly, I had thought that Naomi had powers like Superman, but considering their willingness to do essentially everything she wants, and the fact that almost everybody in town loves her.
Well, because she's a high school student that has the biggest Superman comic book website, but apparently people make live action Superman appearances pretty regularly, and she always is the first to get the scoop. But Superman didn't exist in their universe.
Right. Steven says she's a vampire from True Blood, and she can glamour people. Again, I think there's something about that.
I'd rather have True Blood than Riverdale.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. It just seems to me there's something too good to be true about that a little bit. So we'll see if I'm right, or if you're right, or if Steven's right. But
I've got a couple more secrets that I'm holding close to the chest.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's going to be right or not, but most of them are derived from comic book land theories.
Okay. I will say that what I've heard from the comic books and from everybody else is they've given the writers of the show a lot of artistic liberty.
Well, I mean, and like the comic book just came out in like 2019.
Yeah.
Like the first time.
So
I mean, there's a lot of character growth that can be made.
Yeah. They're still developing the comics too. So that makes sense. Anyway, I'm just curious to see where it all goes. So we talked Superman and Lois. We've talked Naomi. What else did you want to talk about?
I can't end this this stream without bringing up the cameo in Legends of Tomorrow.
Okay, I'm glad that you brought that up because I specifically went and got caught up on DC's Legends of Tomorrow just for this conversation here tonight. So I'm glad. What
I have been faithfully watching Legends of Tomorrow, whether it be to fall asleep to at night or hoping, and in the last couple episodes have felt like it was back on track.
Yeah.
Like the first half of the season, I think the first 8 episodes, there was a lot of running around in 1920s era garb, exploiting every old car and Tommy gun reference. And that was okay, but I mean, I was like, when are we going to get to the stuff?
Right. Yeah.
Then we finally get to, creating time. And of course, Steven probably was watching the whole entire time because as soon as Gideon got a human form, the show became much more interesting.
So much more interesting, right? I mean, it helps that Gideon is hot, right? Try not to get myself in trouble here, but yes,
You just have to say that she reminds you of Jill.
Right.
Would that help at all? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that British accent and everything.
Yeah.
I like the fact that they have gotten Gideon out of the box and have given her, a personality and form.
They destroyed the ship.
They do.
So I mean, and then the spell gone wrong, makes oblivious Gideon that's super intelligent but doesn't know anything about cheese sandwiches.
Right, and I would totally with Steven here. We'd love to get the lady who plays Gideon as a human on our show. So it's not too late for us to try.
And isn't she also on The Mandalorian?
Is she?
Isn't she the forger lady?
You know what? I have not put that together. So she's this is the way.
Yes.
Okay. I did not put that together, but the voice does sound eerily familiar.
I'm almost 900% sure.
Okay. That is something that I need to find out. Okay. So the big reveal that made me go and get caught up on DC's Legends of Tomorrow was dealing with Matt Letcher's appearance as Harrison Wells. Right. Now the idea
a resurrected Harrison Wells.
Right. A resurrected Harrison Wells because he had died as a result of the Black Flash. And he's in my mind he's sort of like Red Skull guarding the Soul Stone. It's the same kind of thing. That he's kind of like a spectral anomaly kind of thing.
He doesn't have his speed powers, but he can freeze time.
Yeah.
And he's quasi-immortal now?
But he has to live the same day. And he's got to protect that fixed point of the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand.
But he is able to be killed, and if he is killed, whoever kills him takes his place.
Right.
Very interesting.
It is.
When I saw, they zoomed in on him on his top hat, and the whole entire time Gideon, was saying I don't understand how time can be in control of all of these fixed points.
Right. And Steven's like, he's Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell.
There you go. Yeah.
Right. Timeout. Yeah. And so I think that was a neat thing. Steven and I had some conversations about this prior to tonight. And, true to form, Steven's brain melts whenever we have conversations about time travel. Me being a Doctor Who fan, I kind of expect that some things are just, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, and they just don't make sense. And for me, I'm okay with that. Steven wants all of the dots to connect, and it just doesn't always happen.
I think I'm right in between the two of you.
Okay.
Is that I want them to connect, and if they do not connect, I can accept it.
Right.
But I'm going to pick it apart.
Yeah, I would love to get like a giant map, a giant timeline map of Reverse Flash with like a highlighted string in chronological order that shows all of his travels through time and where it goes in order, right? That for me, that's what I would love. However, I don't think I'm going to get it. And I think that the shows have played so much with his timeline that, just like Harrison Wells had said, the more you mess with time, the less the rules apply to you. We've certainly seen that. And that's why.
So, and my question is, which level of Harrison Wells said that? Was it the Harrison Wells that had already died and been resurrected? Or was it pre? Because we don't know the whole entire Reverse Flash timeline.
No.
We don't ever see old gray-haired Wellsabard, for all intents and purposes. And we're sure that this is the most experienced. Like in the comic books, you have young Cable and old man Cable, where you have, it's really obvious which one is which.
Right.
So I wish they would do that just a little bit, that like you would know, or like maybe like, one of them has a beat up suit, or, maybe one of them has a pot belly and the other one doesn't have a pot belly.
Right. Well, part of me had thought that that when he looked like Harrison Wells, that that was kind of like an earlier version of him. I like when he for sometimes he appears as Harrison Wells, and sometimes he appears as Eobard Thawne with his original face.
Well, he changed himself to look like Barry Allen in the most recent crossover, so he can change back and forth at will, or is it's technology based? I don't know if he can always change back to look like Wells if he wants to, or I don't know how much biology and technology is involved.
Right. And I think it's hard because he doesn't come out and just tell us that, hi, I'm Eobard Thawne, and I've just come from over here. You won't learn about that until a long time from now.
Well, and you have the Eobard Thawne is from the far future.
Right.
Where he has the technology to give himself flash powers. And he created his own Speed Force.
Yeah.
And then he spends an unknown amount of time going back in time and fighting the Flash at certain points.
Right. Clearly, though, we find that this version of Eobard Thawne, it seems like he's learned his lesson.
He does seem a little bit. He seems a little more understanding.
Yeah, which is something that I had not thought. I thought that he was sort of a fixed point himself. That no matter where he pops up, he has a singular focus of destroying Barry Allen. So the idea that he could change in any way, shape, or form is interesting. And maybe that was the whole idea, that he is sort of doing penance for his past sins.
Well, he was supposed to be a hero. Remember, his original thought was that he was going to become a hero.
Right.
But then the Flash ruined that. And that's the whole reason why he became evil or whatnot.
It it reminds me a lot of the classic Frankenstein, where the monster, the creature, says, "If I cannot inspire love, then I will inspire hate." Right? That because he gets shunned from being loved by people, he turns his back on it and becomes the very thing they all expect him to be. Um, so
Well,
yeah,
that's how extremes work, right?
yeah,
I
they
mean, like
really do.
what is Star Wars? It's two ends of an extreme, and is one right? Is one wrong? Well, one of them's more right, but you kind of find that somewhere in the middle is where you want to be.
Right, right. So I will say that I have been pleasantly surprised. I can't believe I'm saying it. Pleasantly surprised by Legends of Tomorrow, and though I had written it off, um, I I found that to be definitely worth watching. And
Especially
my
the last 3 episodes.
it has been. I still feel like the show is a bit too slapsticky for me. I still long for the first 3 seasons where they're legitimate heroes and it's not just a big joke. However, I really do think that if you watch the show and you don't take it too seriously, and you allow yourself to laugh and just kind of embrace the absurdity of every episode, then you can enjoy DC's Legends of Tomorrow. And when we had talked with Mark Guggenheim a while back about the show, he had said, in the writers' room, they literally have conversations like, "What's the craziest thing that we can have that we can do?" His words were, "There is absolutely nothing that is off the table," and that seems to be the case. So,
And this is definitely, I mean, having a bar at a fixed point in time with a whole bunch of time travelers trying to stop an assassination, and at that point I still didn't see the Reverse Flash cameo coming. Even when I saw the top hat.
right. Steven's like, "I can accept legends, yet I can't accept time anomalies." Right? So, you want it to make sense on a show that doesn't make sense. So I understand. All right. So, DC's Legends of Tomorrow, Naomi, Legends, Superman and Lois. We got a little bit more time here before we're done. I know we had talked about the possibility of talking about, last week we talked about Daredevil. Um, do you want to talk about Jessica Jones? You want to talk about Luke Cage? You want to talk Punisher? Do you want to talk Defenders? What would you like to talk about next?
So, I mean, I didn't go back and binge watch every season of everything before seeing this, but I am invested in that universe as it was, because when it was being made in parallel with the MCU, the blip or the snap or the incident or whatever they call it,
Yeah.
was happening in those universes. And now, because of the Disney Plus shows and Spider-Man No Way Home, they have been it's like they were part of part of the universe, and then they canceled the shows and everyone was upset, and now they've been like reinstituted as canon, in the show, especially for like Spider-Man operates in New York City,
Right.
and all of the Defenders operate in New York City. Iron Man Avengers Tower was in New York City.
Right. I saw a really cool picture which showed where all of these heroes, where they're all located. I mean, literally, you can't step a foot in New York and not step on somebody's shoe.
Yeah.
That's a superhero. So,
and there's a lot of crime happening in New York City. So there's plenty for people to do.
There really is. There really is. I think that the Defenders are just like hyper local. Daredevil and Jessica Jones, they're very Hell's Kitchen. Luke Cage is very Harlem.
Yeah.
Um, and so that I feel like um, that really is kind of their focus.
Well, and when they had the shows were trying to expand.
Yeah,
They were going to Kunlun, they were going to Cambodia. They had the Hand organization, the Five Fingered People. I mean, they had ambitions to grow that show. And now you have between that and you have the Disney Plus shows that extend some of those organizations. You have Madripoor is a pretty big gray area where anybody can operate in and around. We know that Agent Carter, her daughter's gonna be involved with that type of stuff. So I mean, how are they gonna fit is it gonna be the Defenders? I don't know. But definitely Daredevil is involved, Kingpin is involved. I really hope I don't make any secret about it. My favorite of all of the Defenders for me is Luke Cage. Mr. Merry Christmas.
yes,
I love that. I
sweet,
love that.
sweet Christmas.
Yeah. It's like everybody else is dropping F-bombs and stuff. And that's right. Wolverine and Madripoor go back as well.
They really do. So yeah, I mean, I like Luke Cage a lot. Um, I think it was really neat seeing Luke Cage and his interaction with Jessica Jones, as well as I know.
What are you talking about? The interaction?
Well, they hit it off. I think they could kind of relate to each other. You have two lonely, lost, broken people who kind of find each other, and I think that was really interesting. Though I think that I like Luke Cage better with Rosaria Dawson. Um,
There you go.
you know, and our no hidden idea here that we are pro Rosaria Dawson on our podcast.
She's just the glue, and she's also in the Mandalorian universe as well. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
she's in the Kevin Smith universe.
right. So she's everywhere. She's everywhere. What can she not do? And she's a first responder. So
There you go.
yes, absolutely. So I really like her. I really like Luke Cage. There's something about him. Both Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, they seem to be rather reluctant heroes. Like they,
So Jessica Jones, she had tried being like a full-time superhero before she kind of gave up, and she kind of decided to be like more of like a for hire detective type, still using her powers, of course.
of course,
And then in Luke Cage, you have him, whereas he is a government experiment. They had used him. He's part of the Weapon X program. Type of thing. So he is exploited by the government now. And he got out of jail, going back home, going to do things, what they're going to do. And he gets pulled into all this drama. He wasn't, I don't think he was, selling himself out as a hero or, whatever. But, people come to, his part of the block, and he's going to protect it.
yeah.
And then, we don't talk about Danny on this program, but I was reading that Luke Cage was his mentor.
Okay.
So I feel kind of sad that that's the way it ended. Once again, the series ended. The Defenders had their one shot, and it ends. We don't get to see how that develops more.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I feel like everything that they put out there, from Daredevil to Luke Cage to Jessica Jones, to the Punisher, I thought those were all really well cast, well acted. The writing was really, really solid. And then you get to Iron Fist, and I just couldn't. I just can't stand him.
Just the believability of the story. Like if I was in a plane crash and spent 15 years learning kung fu and being blessed by an immortal dragon, and then I showed back up in the Inland Empire, I wouldn't be telling every person that I like, oh yeah, well, I'm best friends with a dragon and Kung Lung,
Right.
and he's magical. Maybe there's a couple of businesses that have a green cross out front that would believe me.
Right. Maybe
But,
you're puffing the magic dragon.
yeah, yeah, that's what they would think was going on.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but I'm like Bruce Wayne has a cover story. Clark Kent has a cover story. Like, oh, where have you been? Like, well, I've been living with these Tibetan monks for the last years. Guess what? They don't have cell phones. It took 15 years for a tourist to say, hey, who's that blonde kid over there? He looks kind of like that kid that was missing in the plane crash.
I know. And I think that's a lot of it, is that when it came to him trying to explain where he went, whenever he started talking about Kung Lung, my eyes glossed over. I was like, I just don't believe it. And if you can't make me believe it, I'm not going to watch it. Plus, I felt like his performance was rather wooden. There wasn't a whole lot of personality to him, and he's supposed to be one of the greatest fighters in existence.
But he's having trouble with some like D-level, Asian street market thugs.
I know. Even on Defenders, he seemed to be more of a liability than an asset.
He made a lot of bad decisions.
Yeah, but he ended up tied up. I don't know how many times. Right.
Well, so you have all of your power. He can only put it in one fist. All of the other Iron Fists can put it in both fists. How many times was he almost going to lose the one hand that works?
Yeah.
Yeah. Luckily, just as the cleaver is gonna cut his hand off, something saves him. But it wasn't him.
Right.
Like, he's passed out. They're about to cut his hand off for reasons. It's just fish market tradition that you cut the hand off.
They're gonna turn it into an ashtray.
Yeah, they're gonna turn it into a magic monkey paw.
Right. So yeah, that's the one thing that I will let them happily recast. I think partly, it's sort of like, you watch Shang-Chi, for example.
Yeah.
I think Shang-Chi did what Iron Fist couldn't. Right? They gave us an Asian-oriented story with great action, good writing. They talk about the supernatural and this other world, and they don't make
Shang-Chi weaves like martial art, movie history in with real Chinese history in with Marvel history.
Right. They do that really, really well. And they somehow do it in a way where I believe it. I don't automatically tune it out and think that it's stupid. And I wish that they had done that with Iron Fist, considering they'd done everything else so well. But I really do think that what you had said before, that all the others, Luke Cage, Daredevil, Punisher, Jessica Jones, they're very grounded characters.
Yeah.
They're not really supernatural. They're about bullets and fists. I mean, that really is their niche. And while they do some pretty extraordinary things, they're not really talking about spiritual things or dragons or
that
kind of stuff.
Luke Cage doesn't walk into a gas station buy a pack of gum, and while buying a pack of gum, say, "Oh yeah, did you know that I was a government test subject and now I have impenetrable skin?"
No.
That's not what he does. But Danny Rand will do that. Danny Rand will walk into a gas station, buy a pack of gum, and he's like, "I haven't had gum in so long because I've been in the mountain village protecting the entrance to Kong Lung, as I've been told to by the Dragon of Mystery." And you're like, "Here's your gum."
Yeah. Yeah, and even the characters on the show gave him that look, right? Like, this guy's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, so if the characters themselves can't take you seriously, how are the viewers going to take you seriously? I know that's certainly something. I will want to talk about kind of the morality of a lot of the characters. It seemed to me like both Luke Cage and Jessica Jones um, had sort of a no kill philosophy, and Daredevil, right? That they had a real no kill policy, um, or at least they would do their darndest to not kill anybody
Mm-hmm.
if they could help it, right? Um, for as gritty and rude as Jessica Jones could be
I
sometimes.
I noticed you didn't put the Punisher on that list.
No, well, because um, though they kind of operate together in some respects, the Punisher, he leaves a trail of bodies wherever he
Yeah,
goes.
he's definitely a kill.
Yeah, he's definitely a kill. But all the others, it seemed like even people who like obviously deserve it, like you're going to send Kingpin to prison, and where he's going to end up corrupting the prison system more than it already is, and become a bigger threat in jail than he ever was before. If you just simply gave him the death that he deserves, you think about what problems that would have solved. Even the acrobatics they had to go through um, in order to leverage him into prison by using extortion and blackmail, um, by uh, by controlling him through his wife.
Well,
Uh,
he's just tied in on so many levels.
right.
Even when we see in the Hawkeye series as well, he's got people on both sides of him. He's got people taking the fall for him. He's got authorities paid off. He just he and it, I think I don't know if you guys had said it or if I had read it somewhere else that he really thinks that he's a hero in his own mind.
Oh yeah. I do think that the best villains think they're the heroes of their own story. I mean, Magneto thinks he's the hero of his own story. A lot of characters are like that, and they do terrible, horrible, despicable things, but in their minds it's justified. You know what I mean? Um, so we certainly see that in regards to Kingpin. He thinks that he and Daredevil are kind of have the same goal of making Hell's Kitchen a better place. He just
Yeah.
wants to destroy it all and start over. Um, but that morality thing. Um, I think about Jessica Jones and Purple Man, David Tennant's character. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant villain. I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves as being a really well written villain. Um, but it was one of those situations. There was no way they were going to lock him up, right? I mean, the only way you were going to stop him was to kill him.
Well, and I believe in the comic books he ends up working with the Kingpin.
Okay.
The Kingpin has his team, and I think that at one point the Kingpin takes some of his powers as well.
Okay.
But if you kill off the character, then you don't know that the show is going to be canceled.
True.
Then you're
And I think that even the Kingpin has been killed off before, only to come back. Like the idea that he got shot in Hawkeye, but he's shot off camera, kind of leaves the possibility for a lot of people that he could always return.
Okay, so he survived a whole entire quiver of special Hawkeye arrows,
Right?
and you think that one, what was it, a 57 round or something, is gonna do it? I mean, once again, he doesn't have any real powers, but he survives, and like he doesn't have head covering. He always has his noggin showing. So I don't know how he survives everything. I don't fully I know that he has special suits that are made, and he's just naturally really, really strong, and he's a really, really good fighter. But I don't know how you survive those arrows were blowing up vehicles and stuff. So
it's the plot force.
Yes, exactly. Whatever is needed, shall it be. But wouldn't it be cool to find out that he had an earlier version of what Luke Cage, went through, or something like that? We obviously, the technology is out there.
Right.
The Weapon X program has been, leaked into so many different continuities that the bad guys get their hands on it all the time.
Right. Well, I think we've just about run out of time here. Corey, I first of all wanted to just thank you so much again for filling in while Steven's been out. You've done a great job. I think we've talked here for an hour and a half, and we haven't had really any dead space.
Yeah, Steven has been telepathy.
You guys have been vibing.
Yeah, yeah. All of the good comments have been from Steven. All of the bad ones are mine.
Okay, there we go. So anyway, I thank you though for your willingness to step in and to help out. This would have been a much less interesting podcast, without you. So thank you
there we go.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. If you guys have stuck in all the way here to the end, I want to remind you, make sure that you subscribe to us on YouTube. Make sure you're liking and commenting on our videos. We definitely love the support and would love to have you come and join us again in the future. And Corey, I want to thank you again. I'm going to go ahead and sign us off.